We had my good friend, Dr. Josh DINES, kind of as an idea to come on this show because we thought it would be really interesting to find out all that we don't know about the stupid decisions we make with our bodies and how we get hurt. And then this week in Madrid, it became, I guess, more relevant than normal because we have young players going down. Alcaraz, arm injury, Sinner hip, Medvedev hip. It seems like there's just this, John and I were talking about it last segment, but I do want to welcome in Josh DINES to get his take on it. His bio is like a laundry list of, he is operates out of special surgery in New York, medical director of Major League Pickleball, but it gets better. Don't worry, that's not like the main thing. So we don't want to lose credibility here on this tennis podcast. Team doctor for the U.S. Davis Cup team. When I played, his father was my first team doctor, and then Josh was after him. New York Mets baseball team, New York Rangers hockey team, L.A. Dodgers has offered more than. Geez, I didn't realize you were this good.
I'm pretty good.
More than 300 original research papers, blah, 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 has authored 7 textbooks on scientific advisory board of several orthopedic implant companies, and most importantly, co-founded and serves as chief medical officer of ViewFi. One of my best friends, Josh DINES. How you doing, man?
Thanks so much. Great to be here, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah. So I'll walk you through my first week with the DINES family. You ready? So I get called up as a 17-year-old practice partner in Los Angeles, walk into the LA Forum, and the team at that point was Andre Agassi, Pete Sampras, Captain John McEnroe. I think it was Johnson Palmer that time, maybe O'Brien Palmer, some combo. Todd Martin was the other hitting partner, and he was like 7 in the world at the time. And then I was 17, and but anyway, so it was like a weird Davis Cup experience because Pete and Andre didn't really practice with each other. No one was staying at the team hotel, so basically I had the top floor of like the Four Seasons in Santa Monica to myself with like a team chef, but like our captain John McEnroe didn't stay at the same hotel, so. It was a little bit fractured, but I go through that, and because Todd's coming back from an ankle injury, he can't play sets. Johnny Mac wants to hit for 2 hours at the end of every day because he thinks he's going to play doubles. So anyways, I put in a big load that week, right? Like I'm talking 10 hours a day. And anyway, and by the end of the week, I have a torn meniscus in my knee. And our team doctor is Josh's father, David DINES, who is a legendary man. Took care of me, put me in great hands with Dr. David Alchek, got my knee taken care of, never be a problem again. Josh and I became fast friends when we met. Fast forward, he takes over for his father, was at Josh's wedding. He was at our wedding. We have become great friends forever and a day since. So that is our backstory. Now I want to know what's changing in tennis currently? What are you seeing? Why are all these young players getting hurt? Are we just paying more attention to it, or is there something that's changed?
I mean, I think it's a combination. You could probably speak to the tennis part better than I because you have a much better understanding of the game. What I would say, and I'm seeing it whether it's tennis, baseball, kind of the buzzword now just with these young athletes is overuse. I mean, you talk about your 1 week as a hitting partner there for 10 hours a day. I'm seeing this, the 8th doubles player at Jericho High School, they're out there with the team and then their private coach and then somebody else. It's just starting at such a young age. Everybody is so focused on scholarships or turning professional and they see it as kind of, the coaches on the other hand see it as a money grab. So I think it's multifactorial, but I think to boil it down, it's just kind of overuse at, to be fair, a much higher level. I mean, I watch tennis as a casual fan. Everything now is a 20, 30 shot rally where there's no quick points, there's no easy points. So I think it's probably all of the above.
Now you talk about overuse. Like what ages are you talking about? And are these like acute injuries that happen, or are these kind of usage injuries that just happen earlier?
Well, I think it's both. Look, the acute injuries are going to happen. You're playing sports, you're playing high level sports. You're going to tear your meniscus. Stuff's going to happen. What we're seeing that's concerning, particularly at the younger age, are these more chronic injuries that you wouldn't see until, now you're seeing them in 14 and 15-year-olds, whereas you previously wouldn't see them until they're in their 20s or, 30s because they're just playing for that many more hours all year. When I grew up, I'm old now, but like you play multiple sports, even the really good athletes, who are going to go professional in something, whether it's a Mike Trout or, Roger Federer, they played other sports. It wasn't just tennis or just baseball. Now nobody's getting drafted by multiple professional sports because everybody plays just one. So because of that, it's 12 months of the year playing tennis or throwing baseballs. And now we're seeing these chronic injuries that, again, you saw in 25, 30-year-olds, in 15-year-olds. And that's when it becomes a problem.
Is this parents gone crazy? Is this coaches gone crazy? Is this parents not knowing and trusting the coaches gone crazy? Or is it all of the above?
I think your question's a great one. I think it's all the above. I think the parents have gone, and it's this vicious cycle where the parents have gone crazy because they think, look, everybody wants the best for their kid, and they think they want to give them the best chance. So they multiple lessons and multiple teams and multiple coaches. And then the other end of it, my daughter was 10, she plays soccer. Like they run it like a Chelsea football club. It's crazy the amount of practices. They send game film. I'm like, look, I love watching her, but to be fair, it's tough enough to watch one game. I mean, I'm not going to review the game film with her. And it's, they take it more seriously. I played my freshman year at Dartmouth, mediocre soccer, and they take it more seriously as 10-year-olds than we do now. So I think it's the coaches, it's the parents. There's so much money in it. And I see it from a parent perspective now where I mentioned my daughter again, but she was a good soccer player. And then she started to play tennis and do other things. And then she came back, she watched the Women's World Cup. She's like, oh, I want to play soccer again. I was like, great. She goes out there and people that she used to be better than were better than she is. And because they've been playing all the time, it's frustrating for her. She kind of, so she wants to play more. So you kind of see, I think it's all the above. If you're competitive and you're an athlete, you see people getting better than you. There's probably some personal drive that wants you to get out there more. Then it's the parents, then it's the coaches. So I don't know how the clock gets reset. It's sort of out there, and I don't know how you turn it back and just make sure that everybody plays multiple sports. I think the horse is out of the barn, unfortunately.
And are the usage rates kind of outgaining technological advances in sports? Because listen, you don't see tennis players walking around with 6-inch scars down the middle of their knee anymore. Like I was back from a knee injury I had a surgery done when I was 17 and I could hit again in 3 weeks or 4 weeks. So it seems like there are technological advances to make the recovery time shorter. Are people just ignoring, we used to be out for 6 months. Now I'm back in 4 weeks. So I'm just going to be a psychopath about recovery.
Probably that's part of it. Look, and not everybody needs surgery. So now they're doing, injections, PRP, biologics. You've kind of heard of those things. So that, theoretically can get people back more quickly, but, and they rush back and then beat it up again. So, we're probably also getting more sophisticated in making the diagnosis. I mean, obviously it was a while ago, but like over the last probably 20 years, hip injuries are much more common now, but hip arthroscopy didn't even exist then, 20 years ago. And now we're so much more sophisticated diagnosis wise and also treatment wise. And it's probably a double-edged sword, where you're diagnosing them because it's less invasive. Maybe people are getting a little more aggressive about, fixing things a little more quickly before they become these sort of train wrecks.
Is there like a proactive bias if you get, let's say, past 40 years old? My hips are, I'm assuming, I'm going to get your advice on who to go to at some point for a hip operation. But are people just being proactive about it's going to hurt in 10 years, so therefore I'll just take care of it now?
I think depending on kind of the athlete we're talking about. If it's the weekend warrior, maybe they're getting a little more aggressive. The 40, 50-year-old who says, I'd rather have something done now than wait 15 years till I can't even really sort of enjoy it. So they'll do things a little sooner. I don't think that we're seeing that at the younger age, though, there was a scary time, not to take the folks away from tennis, but for baseball, where parents were coming in asking for elective Tommy John surgery for their kids because they heard they could throw harder.
That's what I was telling you about, Mike.
Yeah, crazy. I mean, legitimately, that's like assault and battery on your kid.
No, but for people that haven't heard this before, talk through ages, parents, what they say, and give us kind of like a normal situation and like a nightmare situation.
I think so. Look, there's unfortunately the normal situation now. I mentioned Tommy John surgery. That's baseball players. Your sports fans have heard about that, where they tear the ligament on the inside of their elbow, and you throw really hard. You're a professional baseball player. 25% of them have had Tommy John surgery. Pitchers in the major leagues now, so it's common. What's scary is you're seeing at the younger ages, the 14 and 15-year-olds, getting back to that overuse discussion we were having earlier, and pitching coaches and all those things. But what's really disturbing is, you get reports of people who make the majors afterwards. Jacob deGrom, Tommy John surgery, and has a great career, one of the best pitchers, and throwing harder. So parents for a while were hearing this and saying, wait a second, maybe I'll just do this electively. If you can get my kid throwing 3 or 4 miles per hour faster, now they can get a scholarship to play baseball at some college you've never heard of, Division 7, so they could brag to their friends that their kid plays college baseball. And it was literally for a while, it would be once every 2 weeks where a parent would come in and ask for that. I think we got enough sort of out there, almost public service announcements telling parents that they're crazy. You don't want to do this for multitude reasons. And now I'm not hearing that, which is great. But it just speaks to how crazy kind of the parents can get in this competitive environment where they again, I think they're coming from the right place. They want the best for their kid, but it really can go down the wrong path.
See, I always thought that tennis had cornered the market on psychotic parents. Like, I thought we were like the leader in the clubhouse. Like I talked about it a couple weeks ago on the pod. Like I literally saw with my own eyeballs, a father who had basically couldn't get within, 200 yards of a tennis facility because he had, beaten his kids and they lose a 10 and under match, up in a tree with binoculars, like 200 yards away, watching the match. And I always kind of felt like in an individual sport, it kind of maybe exaggerated crazy. Or do parents view even team sports like in a silo where it's like an individual inside of this operation? Now I thought we were the craziest. Are we not the craziest?
It's interesting because I think you were the far and away the clubhouse leaders, but people are catching up for the reason you just talked about. Because I think you're actually right. Look, when I grew up and played baseball, like you have one coach and that was it. Now, as I mentioned, like, everybody has pitching coaches. It's almost become an individual. They have hitting coaches. I mean, these 14 and 15-year-olds have hitting coaches and a separate pitching coach and fielding coaches in addition to their team. So I think even these team sports have become individual, efforts and kind of journeys as well. So the soccer coach, they all play soccer, but then they've got like some of the kids on Poppy's team have individual coaches just to work on dribbling and ball skills, and then there's, basketball coaches, you've got your team, and then these separate individualized instructions. So you've made it an individual sport also, which has allowed the parents to get almost as crazy as the tennis parents.
Well, I'm listen. I don't like to be beat at. I don't like to be beat at anything. So as long as we're still,
you're still the lead, but it's now a game.
As long as I feel like we're more like international crazy. Like we're crazy everywhere.
Right.
So John Wertheim and I were just talking in the first segment of the show. There's been a lot made of Masters 1000s in tennis going to a longer format, right? So as Miami and Indian Wells kind of used to be outliers as far as the 11, 12, 13 days event, now a lot of the Masters 1000s are converting to that. And one of their selling points was, listen, there's more rest between matches. And my take is like, listen, if there's 5 more Master 1000 that are longer and you have to be on site, that's 5 weeks lost for rest on your own pillow. Actually intentional working out. Jannik Sinner had to withdraw this week with a hip issue, and it came from him. He's like, I was training in the gym in Madrid, like lifting, because I have to do my lifting cycles during these events because there's no off time. Am I an idiot for thinking that these weeks would be better spent like intentionally being somewhere where you're not switching time zones, surfaces, et cetera, et cetera? Like as a player, I'd rather play back-to-back matches and be fatigued than be injured.
I think you're always very intelligent about this. This isn't just to blow smoke up your ass. I mean, you're always thoughtful, and I agree with that 100%. And I mean, you can kind of look at like acute versus acute on chronic workload, and they could sort of spin it that you're now dividing it up over 2 weeks. But I think you're right. Resting at a hotel, even if it's a Four Seasons, knowing that you're going to play the next day is completely different than being somewhere else in what's really home, your own bed, your own, you've got your own routine, work with your team, your physical therapist to really get back, really rest. I mean, there's like anything else, there's kind of different degrees of rest. So I think that's a positive spin on it. And I think, look, as a fan, it's fun to watch those tournaments. I love them. So it's great. But from the player perspective, I agree with you. I mean, I'd rather almost get the work done and then be able to kind of recover and rehab on my own time and my own way than sort of have it be dictated that now I'm on the road more weeks of the year, more hotels, away from home, doing my normal routine.
Do you think that us tennis players would see you less if we actually had time to schedule in these rest training blocks? Because I have it written here, and you're well versed in all sports. Obviously you've been the trusted doctor for professional sports teams, on different coasts. NFL 7 to 8 months. I get that. It's acute. Like you get knocked in the head. You need that time off. NBA 4 months off. And this is all assuming you win everything. This isn't like the shitty teams get more time off. And this is the same in tennis. You make World Tour finals and you add 3 weeks to your year. Congratulations. NBA 4 months off. Euro soccer 3 to 4 months off. Baseball 3 to 4 months off. How psychotic are we in tennis that we play 11 and 11 and a half months a year? And are we short-sighted by doing that?
Well, I think it depends on how you're defining, being short-sighted, who the we is. I mean, I think if you're trying to make money and they want to have tournaments all year, and I think, the good players have the luxury, of not playing some of the events. And again, this, have a better understanding of this than I, but you probably don't have to play 30 weeks a year to keep, to create enough points to get, sort of bids into the next tournaments. But the way it is now, it's a rat race. You have to be out there. So I think it is a disservice from a health perspective of the players. Clearly, they would benefit from more rest. But it's almost like I'm talking about my daughter being 10. Like if everybody else is doing it, then you've got to do it. So somebody's got to do like kind of a hard reset, because you're not going to get a couple of players to just volunteer and not show up, because then the other people are going to take their spots, I think. But look, big picture would definitely be healthier to not do that. I used to make fun of baseball. Sorry to interrupt. I was going to say I used to make fun of baseball because I'm like, look, it's not a contact sport. But then you look at the calendar, and starting in spring training in basically middle of February. I mean, there was a period where they added a couple, but they had 8 days off for the season that started, basically April 1st till the end of September. Like to do anything, show up to any office that many days. Now everybody works from home, but can you imagine showing up at any office, basically for 6 months straight, getting 1 day off a month? It's just a grind.
Yeah, it certainly, and they're reacting off of the schedules for the other sports. And listen, I on this podcast, I never want to pretend like pointing out problems are simple. Solutions are much tougher. I understand that there are TV contracts in place that they can't get out of for a certain amount of time. I've just been thinking about it more because of the opportunities, other investors coming into tennis. There's talks of super tours. There's talks of, all these things make you say like the conversation about what's a perfect schedule. And it feels more real. And I don't entirely agree with the reasons why this is happening. But if it happens, the top players play the most matches. Post-US Open have 1 or 2 big events. The last month or 6 weeks of the calendar should all be 250 level events. Should all be for players that need to put points on the board to make a living for the next year. And the people that play the most throughout the year are done if they want to be. I could, as when I was 4 in the world, I could still play a 250 event if I wanted to, if it made sense. If there was one an hour away and I wanted to use it as like a training block to get matches and, in a competitive thing. But there needs to be, I don't think the players that play the most throughout the year should also have to add 2 or 3 weeks to their season at the end of the year. But also, I understand the guys that are 80 and 90 in the world, they want to cash paychecks because they have to. I fully understand that. But give them a month, give them 6 weeks where it's paycheck season, where it's ranking point season for the next year. But also, that's a choice, right? You're actually choosing to opt into that schedule as opposed to it being basically just presented to you. Every time I hear you talk about baseball and the parents, I think of the movie Rookie of the Year with Henry Roland Gardner. But I don't think these stories end with the Cubs winning the pennant. I want to compare and contrast what are the most difficult things about the physicality of tennis that you see. Obviously, we're not taking hits. We're talking about hockey. We're not, most of us have our teeth. We're not dealing with CTE. We're dumb on our own. Talk about what's the closest comp as far as physicality, movement to tennis.
I mean, it's so unique because again, the points now I just watch as a fan. It is amazing what these points look like. I think look, basketball is still a contact sport at the level, the NBA, especially when we watch the playoffs. But just the movement up and back in the court, just nonstop. High level, I think that would probably be, the closest I could think of, but you probably put more thought in this than I. But it's clearly much more vigorous than baseball. And look, hockey, it's crazy. It's a car crash for every 30-second shift. But the best players, on the ice are playing for 20 minutes. So I'm not drawing any, comparison between hockey and tennis, but you're out there for 5 hours sometimes, and you get quick breaks in between serves and stuff, but it has become unbelievably demanding. It gets hard to watch as a fan now because these matches go on forever. It's amazing the level of play, but it's so physical. It's every ball's hit so hard. There's no quick points from my viewing of it, and you've got to be out there for the physical, I guess, in terms of like cardiovascular. I think it's up there with anything. Soccer, maybe. I mean, maybe soccer for an hour, but even that's an hour. An hour.
Yeah, I had a point of pride last week because Larry Fitzgerald was on a T2 show, and he said, in no uncertain terms, that he thought tennis players were the best athletes on earth, which is shocking to me because, like, when you see him walking around, he is a mammal. He is an absolute specimen, and so I kind of feel like. I feel for the players and what they're going through, and I see the same things that you do. I see every player as a 6'5" rubber band of a human is able to slide open stance into a backhand that they hit with two hands. There's no weaknesses. Like you look at a Sinner, you look at a Novak, like you can't go through them and you can't go around them. And so while that is amazing to me, I have a lot of gripes about it, but I also feel like the physicality now in tennis is so obvious, even to someone that's not looking for the nuances of it, where, when I started up, it's like country club sport, and I'm like, man, it's like, I hate being dismissed like that because it's fucking hard, man. Like it's really hard. But I agree that the athleticism that I've seen is just absurd. One more thing I want to get to specifically. And I don't know if there's any way to stop it. I don't know, but it seems to me that the most chronic injury in tennis now, where it's like you see players 20 years after they retire, is hips. And so, like, currently you have Sinner, who's young, going with hip stuff. Medvedev, hopefully it's not bad, but pulled up and had to retire with a hip injury. Andre has dealt with hip stuff. Jimmy Connors has metal hips. Guga has a hip. Magnus Norman, Bob Bryan, Andy Murray. And the list goes on and on and on. Why is that? Why has it become seemingly more prevalent over time? I'm guessing it has something to do with open stances. And is there anything that all the club chuckers listening can do to kind of avoid those same injuries, obviously at a lesser scale?
Yeah, I mean, so part of it, yeah, you're right. And I think there's a couple of questions in that. I think one is, and you answered the question, I think that the open stance, the just running, again, a match used to be an hour and a half, now you're running for 5 hours. It's like treads on a tire when you start talking about kind of like hip arthritis and stuff. So I think, at the level of the professionals, the Sinners, the Bryans, the Andy Murrays, the people who had that now, and I mentioned earlier, now we're more sophisticated, and hip arthroscopy didn't really exist when I was 20, 25 years ago. It was just starting. Now it's become almost a subspecialty within orthopedic sports medicine, and I think that has the potential, and there have been studies on this showing that it can change the natural history, delay arthritis, delay the need for hip replacements, things of that nature. Now, you're not doing that electively in the Sinners and people like that, but I think for the weekend warriors, the 40-year-olds, the 50-year-olds, whereas it used to be suck it up until you need a hip replacement, now there's at least sort of steps that can be taken to avoid that, because it is a bigger procedure, despite some of the examples you gave of people already returning back to the professional level. I think being aware of it, knowing that hips are an issue, like, flexibility, core strength, I think, everybody's much more aware of these things and can do things more preventatively. And then from a just sort of general health advice thing, playing through pain is, especially if you're not getting paid to do it, makes no sense whatsoever. Listen to your body. If you need to take a couple weeks off, you're talking about professionals taking a few weeks off. I see these weekend warriors who play, 7 days a week and never, I'm like, you got to take some time off. I'm like, oh no, but I'm in this USTA thing next week. And my comments like, well, how much are they paying you? I'm like, I kept Andy Roddick out of the French Open. You can miss, Old Westbury Country Club. Now they actually probably thought I'm implying that it was for medical reasons because you couldn't play on clay. But with that said,
I just needed a doctor's note to skip school that day.
With that said, they could miss, the Old Westbury Country Club, mixer. So but like people, it's at all levels. It's not just the kids, the parents. I think everybody, tries to define themselves by sports on a certain level. So, but people need to be smart about it.
So one of the things that that being good at sports gets you is access to expertise, right? So I'm struggling in France. I can call Josh. I can fly across the ocean, check it out. What's wrong? is oftentimes that's important. What it's not to me, like knowing I wasn't going to hurt something further or risk serious injury, is not something that everyone can get at scale. Josh, tell me about ViewFi. Tell me how it happened. Josh and I worked together on another healthcare company, but tell us why it's important and tell us why it matters for, you've talked about the weekend warriors, but talk about how they can get kind of the same care as I can.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, look, it started basically like this plus, kind of 9 other people on a Zoom call, early COVID.
And booze and alcohol.
Yes. Yeah. I buried the lead, but definitely a lot of alcohol. It was like one of
those drunk COVID calls that everyone remembers. Josh and I were on a drunkish.
Yes, when the best ideas happen. And so, I actually, this is, again, not to, be a blatant ass kisser, but like you're good at a lot of things. I think one of the most underrated things is you're like extremely thoughtful and smart and ask great questions. And you polled the audience. There was like, 9 other people on the call, all of whom much more successful than I. And you asked them kind of what's going to change in their sort of fields. And everybody had their answers. And I said, for, orthopedics, telehealth is going to be, got to change. Because right now I'm doing Zoom calls. This was 2 weeks into COVID. People were happy that I was just not abandoning them, but I'm trying to examine their shoulder and their arms floating off the screen. It was a joke, but it was kind of a charade. We're both going along with it. And you called me the next day. You're like, really, is this really a problem? And I thought it was. And, fast forward, you had 2 guys you were good friends with who were much more tech savvy than both of us, who said we could kind of build a good product. And, selfishly it started, or my idea was just to kind of build something that I could use to examine patients a bit more realistically, do it virtually so that, you and I would do it via FaceTime when you're at Roland Garros, but like other people don't have that luxury. And we thought maybe we could kind of bring this to the masses, to your point. And then it kind of got legs of its own where we've got a great team around us who built this product and now really at scale can, basically treat any musculoskeletal condition and at least get patients on the right first step, get them down the right path, which is a huge issue in healthcare. You start going down the wrong path, the costs add up, the pain lingers, you don't get better, and things start getting done that may not need to be done or may not needed to have been done if they were diagnosed correctly initially. So with ViewFi, we built this amazing platform that can make the right diagnosis, treat people appropriately, with physical therapy, be it in person or virtually. And if they need to go to a surgeon, we've got that capability to get them to the best people as well. So definitely something I'm very proud of, and you were a huge role in that. So thank you.
I'm always happy to learn even about stuff I have no business being involved with. You are one of the best at what you do in the entire world. I love you, man. You're one of my best friends. Thanks for coming on the pod.
This is awesome.
And we'll sidebar soon.
That was great. Thanks. And I do feel bad for you guys if you went from Larry Fitzgerald to me, though. You're heading in the wrong direction quickly.
No, to be fair, Larry wouldn't even think about coming on our show. It was on a different show. Thanks, JD.
Perfect. All right. That makes much more sense.
Thanks, brother.
Take care, guys.